April 3, 2016. Panama Papers leaked, Sharif family under spotlight. The International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, ICIJ, makes 11.5 million secret documents available to the public for the very first time. The documents, coming from Panamanian law firm Mossack Fonseca, contain confidential attorney-client information for more than 214,488 offshore entities. 8 offshore companies were reported to have links with the family of Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and his brother, Chief Minister of Punjab, Shahbaz Sharif. According to documents available on the ICIJ website, the Prime Minister's children Mariam, Hassan, and Hussein were owners or had the right to authorize transactions for several companies. The leaks breathe a new life into allegations of corruption that the Sharif family has long been haunted by. At the forefront of the battle is Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, led by its chairman Imran Khan. April 4, 2016. The leaks are God-sent, says Imran Khan. PTI chairman Imran Khan and his party aides consolidate their position on corruption allegations against the Prime Minister, demanding immediate action by the government to respond to the allegations. This marks the beginning of what will be nearly a year-long effort to resolve the Panama Papers case, also dubbed Panamgate in the local media. April 5, 2016. Under pressure, Sharif announces probe. Realizing that silence may deepen the crisis, Sharif takes to the Pakistan Television, PTV, headquarters to address the nation and clear the air. The Prime Minister begins his speech with a subtle acknowledgement of the fact that he is using state apparatus to address a personal matter. Visibly perturbed, Sharif says he is open to the formation of a judicial commission to probe his family's alleged finances in offshore tax havens. He explains how his family business was ruined by the party of the Bhuttos from the 70s to the 90s and then was slowly built up again. On January 2, 1972, Bhutto took over the foundry in Lahore, and hence our assets were lost in mere moments, Mr. Sharif confesses. My family was not involved in politics till much later. As such, even before I got into politics, we were an established industrial family, he explained. The Prime Minister goes on to speak about how his father established an industrial plant in Makkah, following the military coup in 1999. The plant, he says, was later sold, and my sons invested the funds into their businesses. Denying the legitimacy of allegations targeting his family and himself, the Prime Minister assures the country he is open to legal scrutiny. April 10, 2016. Khan wants CJP to head commission. Khan wants the government to promptly form an inquiry commission led by the serving Chief Justice of Pakistan, Anwar Zahir Jamali. To the contrary, the government is keen on having ex-Supreme Court judges populate the bench. April 13, 2016. 5 ex-SC judges refuse to lead inquiry. Still in its infancy, Panamagate begins to ingress into the judicial sphere, albeit turbulently. Interior Minister Chaudhry Nisar Ali Khan reveals that the ex-Supreme Court judges contacted by the government to head the inquiry commission have turned down the offer. Nisar regrets, all of these judges after taking the time to think over the matter refused to lead the commission without giving any reasons. April 14, 2016. Frail, Sharif in London for checkup. Despite mounting criticism from local press and political parties, Sharif takes off for London citing a medical checkup as the reason for this 5-day tour. A PMLN source reveals, the Prime Minister was looking quite weak when he visited the Planning and Development Ministry a few days ago, and the disclosures of his son's involvement in offshore business definitely had its political and health costs. The office bearer adds that apparently due to a mistake by surgeons during a previous medical procedure in London, Mr. Sharif had bled profusely. He recovered, but not completely, and was advised to take breaks from his engagements for further treatment. April 16, 2016. PMLN proposes tours. A government team headed by Finance Minister Ishaq Dar finalizes the terms of reference, tours, for the proposed inquiry commission being formed to investigate the Panama Papers leaks. The tours are meant to define a scope within which the investigation would take place. Understandably, this is going to be a matter of contention. Mainly the government's tours looked at empowering the proposed judicial commission to look into the following points. To examine information relating to involvement of Pakistani citizens, persons of Pakistan origin and legal entities in offshore companies in Panama or in any other country. Involvement of former and present holders of public office in writing off their own bank loans or those of their immediate family members through political influence. Transfer from Pakistan of funds which have originated from corruption, commissions or kickbacks, and to determine whether, in any case referred to above, any law for the time being in force in Pakistan has been infringed. Maryam Nawaz expresses annoyance on PMLN's response not being robust enough. The meeting also reportedly resolved that, if at all the commission is formed, it will be the one headed by a retired judge of the Supreme Court as announced by the Prime Minister in his address to the nation. Despite having been rejected by 5 ex-SC judges, the Muslim League leadership is still adamant to see a retired judge of the Supreme Court heading the commission. Rumor has it, retired Judge Sarmat Jalal Osmani has accepted the responsibility to lead the probe. The opposition parties, however, are still unclear on how best to go about the probe. April 19, 2016. Sharif returns to Pakistan. Amidst political turbulence, Sharif returns to Pakistan, eyeing a difficult job ahead of him. April 22, 2016. Will resign if proven guilty, Sharif in second state address. In yet another address to the nation, Sharif announces that his government has decided to formally ask then Chief Justice of Pakistan to set up a judicial commission for investigations into Panama Papers leak. I challenge all those who allege tax fraud to come forward and present evidence. If charges are proved against me, I will resign immediately, vowed Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. Sharif appears visibly piqued and spares no one while targeting his political opponents, the hostile media, the regime of Gen Pervez Musharraf and his allies. He reserves the bulk of his criticism for Imran Khan. April 25, 2016. Opposition rejects government tours. Rejecting the inquiry commission proposed by the government, leaders from the PTI, PPP, MQM, PMLQ demand the tours of any such commission be drafted in consultation with the opposition. May 1, 2016. Bilawal asks Sharif to step down. Coming out strongly against the government, PPP chairperson Bilawal Bhutto Zardari calls on Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif to step down, until an inquiry into the money laundering allegations leveled at his family are completed. As long as the investigations into the Panama leaks are ongoing, you should resign. You can resume office when you are absolved of the charges, he said, reminding Mr. Sharif of advice he had imparted for the former Prime Minister Youssef Raza Gilani when the latter was facing multiple charges in court. May 3, 2016. Opposition presents tours. After a joint meeting between opposition parties, a set of tours have been presented to the government and the media. The tours emphasize on initiating the inquiry into offshore holdings, starting with the Sharif family. Among other points, the tours enlist the following. Whether a respondent, by concealing the ownership and source of income through which the properties were purchased, has committed corrupt and illegal practices under the election/tax laws. A special law titled Panama Papers, Inquiry and Trial, Act 2016 should be passed to facilitate the investigation into the assets, both foreign and domestic, of the Prime Minister. The law shall be formed with the consensus of the opposition parties. A special commission should be formed, headed by Chief Justice and comprising 2 other SC judges nominated by him. The procedure of the inquiry shall be fully inquisitorial in character. The commission should complete its inquiry in relation to the Prime Minister and his family in 3 months. May 5, 2016. Government rejects opposition's tours. Rejecting the opposition's draft of the tours for a judicial probe, the government indicated it was willing to sit with the opposition and to come up with tours that were focused on eliminating corruption and did not target the Prime Minister personally. The opposition wants the Prime Minister in the dock, without touching other politicians whose children also run offshore companies, said Chaudhry Nisar Ali Khan, alleging that the opposition was not serious about holding an inquiry and only wanted to achieve their political goals by simply leveling allegations. May 10, 2016. Raheel Sharif urges PM to resolve the Panama issue. Jen Sharif, according to a well-placed government source, conveyed a pointed message to the Prime Minister in a one-on-one meeting. The Army Chief's view was that the protracted controversy over Panama Papers investigation was affecting governance and national security and, therefore, the issue needed to be urgently brought to a close. May 13, 2016. Supreme Court rejects Inquiry Commission. The Panama controversy takes a new turn as the Supreme Court returns the federal government's request to appoint an inquiry commission to investigate the leaked documents' connection with the Sharif family. Formation of Commission of Inquiry under the Pakistan Commission of Inquiry Act 1956, Act 6 of 1956, looking to its limited scope, will result in the constitution of a toothless commission, which will serve no useful purpose, except giving bad name to it, says a communication sent to the Law Secretary by Supreme Court Registrar Arbab Mohammed Arif. The letter also observes that the tours of the proposed commission are so wide and open that it may take years for the commission to conclude proceedings. May 16, 2016. Sharif explains himself in landmark speech. The Prime Minister suggests the formation of a joint committee to draft the tours, which will establish the judicial commission he referred to in his first state address on the Panama Papers allegations. In this speech, Sharif attempts to explain the ownership of his London Park Lane flats. Astonishingly, there is no mention of Qatari Prince Jassim. The money used to purchase flats in London, he says, was linked to properties the Sharif family sold off in Pakistan decades ago. After the session, PTI says Sharif has misled the Assembly. The Prime Minister lied on the floor of the House, says PTI leader Shah Mahmood Qureshi. We have rejected the Prime Minister's speech and the Chief Justice has already rejected the tours prepared by the government. So we will see where do we go from here, he adds. May 18, 2016. Consensus to form tour committee. After much back and forth, the federal government and opposition have agreed to form a 12-member committee in order to draft joint tours for an inquiry commission, which would probe the Panama Papers. After a meeting with opposition members, Information Minister Pervez Rashid said that government and opposition will name 6 legislators each to form the parliamentary committee. May 22, 2016. Nawaz flies to London for heart surgery. Maryam Nawaz says cardiologists and surgeons carried out tests, following which they decided to go for an open heart surgery. The surgery will be performed on May 31, and opposition party leaders, including Imran Khan and Bilawal Bhutto, tweet their best wishes to Sharif. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi also tweets good luck to Sharif. Maryam dubs the surgery successful and thanks everyone for their prayers and good wishes. June 4, 2016. The tour stalemate. The 12-member bipartisan parliamentary committee seems to have hit a dead end as both sides are not only refusing to budge from their positions on the issue of offshore companies but are also accusing each other of toughening their stance. The opposition insists on starting the Panama probe from Sharif and his 3 children, whereas the government side wants to enact a law that would extend the scope of investigations but would not make any reference to the premier. Opposition parties later in the month say they will take to the streets if the government doesn't review its position on the tours. June 24, 2016. PTI files petition with ECP against Sharif. PTI files a reference with the Election Commission of Pakistan, ECP, seeking disqualification of Sharif for allegedly concealing his assets. 3 days later, PPP also petitions the ECP to disqualify the Prime Minister and his family members. The Prime Minister is not Sadiq and Amin anymore and, therefore, is not eligible to hold a seat in the National Assembly, says the petition, which also contains charges of money laundering, tax evasion and concealment of assets. July 9, 2016. 48 days later, Nawaz returns to Pakistan. Sharif returns home from London, kicking off discussions among analysts about what he should now do to secure his future as the chief executive of the country. Upon his arrival in Lahore, the Prime Minister appears relaxed and lighter in weight than when he had left a month and a half ago. The Prime Minister's arrival also fuels discussions such as the one during which Mr. Sharif had repeatedly been told about the need for having some formal deputies in place, minding the party and the government on his behalf, should the need arise. July 12, 2016. PM advised to get tough with PTI. As he returns to work and is updated on the economic, security and political situation, Sharif is also determined to devise a plan to counter the PTI chief's propaganda. Khan had recently declared that he was now ready to play the final round of matches against the ruling party. At the meetings in Rawalpindi, the Prime Minister is quoted as asking his advisors to prepare the ground for multiple strategies against opposition parties. A PMLN politician from Lahore remarks that the Prime Minister's body language is that of a leader determined to stand firm against his opponents. He is in no mood to show leniency, he says. July 20, 2016. No more negotiations, says opposition. The opposition has decided not to negotiate anymore with the government over the tour issue. PTI had invited opposition parties to plot their future course of action after the government refused to accept their tours for a Panama-specific probe. Rather than adopting a hard-hitting stance against the government, opposition parties agreed to use their presence in the national and provincial assemblies to remind Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif of his promise to hold a free and fair investigation into the Panama scandal. August 3, 2016. Imran lashes out. Mr. Khan regrets that 4 months had passed since the Panama made headlines, but not a single institution had moved or served notice on those whose names had appeared in the Panama Papers for allegedly committing money laundering and tax evasion. In the run-up to the movement for accountability, PTI starts building pressure on the state institutions he believes are responsible for election rigging and rampant corruption in the country. Mr. Khan regrets that 4 months had passed since the Panama made headlines, but not a single institution had moved or served notice on those whose names had appeared in the Panama Papers for allegedly committing money laundering and tax evasion. In the run-up to the movement for accountability, PTI starts building pressure on the state institutions he believes are responsible for election rigging and rampant corruption in the country. August 24, 2016. G files frivolous Panama petition in SC. G chief presents a copy of their petition to the media. Jamaat-e-Islami, G. Amir Siraj Haq filed his party's long-awaited petition on the Panama Papers leaks in the Supreme Court. The petition doesn't name Nawaz Sharif directly. PTI is expected to file a similar petition next week. 4 days later, the Apex Court returns the petition, terming it frivolous. This petition prima facie appears to be a frivolous petition within the contemplation of Order 17 Rule 5 of the Supreme Court Rules 1980, says an order issued by the Registrar Office. August 29, 2016. Seeking PM's disqualification, PTI files petition with SC. The PTI files a petition with the Supreme Court seeking disqualification of Prime Minister Sharif from his office as well as the National Assembly. The petition was filed by T's counsel Naeem Bukhari on behalf of party chairman Imran Khan. It has been filed against 10 respondents, which include Nawaz Sharif, his daughter, sons, and government institutions. Bukhari told reporters that their petition is based on the Prime Minister's May 16 speech delivered on the floor of the National Assembly. A statement delivered on the floor of an assembly possesses prestige, he said, adding that were a lot of contradictions between the facts and the claims made by Nawaz. September 25, 2016. Imran urges followers to put up country's biggest ever demonstration. Khan appeals to people to fully participate in his party's September 30th march to Rawalpindi in order to put pressure on state institutions which, according to him, are not working judiciously on the Panama Papers issue. September 30th, 2016. PTI protests outside Sharif residence, demands Nawaz's resignation. Doubling the political pressure on Nawaz Sharif, the PTI leadership decides to invite its workers to stage a sit-in outside the residence of Nawaz Sharif. On their call, several thousand supporters of the PTI from different parts of the country reach Rawalpindi Road to participate in the accountability movement seen by many as a do-or-die act of Imran Khan. October 7, 2016. Khan's next plan, Islamabad lockdown. October 10, 2016. Imran asks court for early hearing. In a bid to increase pressure on the government, the PTI has asked the Supreme Court to hold an early hearing of its petition seeking to disqualify Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, his son-in-law retired Cap Mohammad Safdar and Finance Minister Ishaq Dar for their alleged involvement in the Panama scandal. October 20, 2016. SC accepts petitions. The Supreme Court of Pakistan started accepting petitions filed by Pakistan Tehreek-i-Insaf, Jamhuri Watan Party, Jamaat-i-Islami, and others to begin the proceedings. I welcome the judicial proceedings in connection with Panama Papers, said Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif in reply. In a statement issued after consultation with his legal team, he said, "The court of public opinion has been making decisions, it would be better to wait for the judiciary's decision." October 28, 2016. SC forms a larger bench to formally initiate proceedings. The SC has formed a larger 5-bench to hear petitions regarding Panama. Earlier, a 3-member bench accepted petitions filed by PTI and Sheikh Rashid, asking for the Prime Minister's disqualification. October 31, 2016. Imran's lockdown threat inches closer to reality. Khan calls on supporters to gather in capital, but the numbers aren't impressive. The government places shipping containers to block off routes from Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa into Islamabad. Khan rails against Sharif, government stands its ground. November 1, 2016. First hearing, SC asks for tours, PTI calls off lockdown. It was win-win for all sides when the SC asked the government and the protesting PTI to present their respective tours, in case the court decided to constitute an inquiry commission on Panama. The order allowed Imran Khan to save face and call off his plan to lock down the capital, while Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif accepted the formation of a judicial commission to investigate the Panama Papers scam, which has been a bone of contention between the two parties since the scandal broke in April 2016. The Apex Court had, on May 13, declined to accept the federal government's plea to appoint a commission of inquiry to probe the Panama scandal. November 2, 2016. PTI holds Thanksgiving rally. November 7, 2016. Sharif children submit replies to SC. A caricature of Hussein Nawaz Sabir Nazar/Herald. The Sharif Children's Council, Salman Aslam Butt, informed the bench that Hassan Nawaz has been running a business lawfully for the last 22 years and Hussein for 16 years. He added that Maryam Nawaz is not dependent on the Prime Minister. Denying allegations leveled in the petitions, Maryam said she is not the beneficiary owner of offshore companies, Nielsen and Nescau, but only a trustee. November 14, 2016. Good for selling Pacaras, PTI submits evidence. The PTI and the AML chief are two of the 4 parties who have submitted their documents. Analyzing the evidence will be a 5-judge Supreme Court bench, headed by Chief Justice Anwar Zahir Jamali. The court is currently considering whether or not to appoint a judicial commission to probe the Panama scandal. The big question: how did Nawaz Sharif's children pay for their London properties? The Supreme Court questioned the quality of the evidence presented by PTI and deplored that their 680-page submission had almost nothing to do with the Sharif family's London properties. Pointing at T's counsel Hamid Khan, Justice Sheikh Ismat Saeed observed that it seemed as if the petitioners were trying to bury the truth under their evidence that consisted mostly of newspaper clippings, which were only good for selling Pacaras the day after publication. Also read, #PanamAgate. Prince Jassim of Qatar presents a different story. Like a rabbit out of a hat, PMLN counsel Mohammed Akram Sheikh pulls out a document dated November 5, 2016 marked private, confidential, and not to be disclosed to any party, except for the benefit of the courts of Pakistan on the letterhead of Hamid bin Jassim bin Jaber Al Thani, who ruled Qatar from 2007 to 2013. The letter states that Hamid's father Jassim bin Jaber Al Thani had long-standing business relations with me and Mohammad Sharif, Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's father, which were coordinated through my eldest brother. In the year 1980, me and Sharif expressed his desire to invest a certain amount of money in the real estate business of Al Thani family in Qatar, the document says. The Supreme Court is not pleased to hear yet another explanation for how the Sharif family paid for its London properties, observing that both sides were doing their best to ensure that the court would eventually have to form a commission to decide the PanamAgate case. This document has completely changed the public stand of the Prime Minister, Justice Asif Saeed Kosa observed after the Sharif children's newly engaged counsel, Mohammed Akram Sheikh, presented before the court an attested letter from a former Qatar Prime Minister. November 30, 2016. Shahbaz forged signatures. T's lead counsel in the PanamAgate case Naeem Bukhari, before the Supreme Court, alleged that Punjab Chief Minister Shahbaz Sharif had forged his cousin Tariq Shafi's signatures on documents. Addressing a 5-judge bench, Bukhari said, "I don't want to say that Shahbaz Sharif forged Tariq Shafi's signature, but there is a difference in the signatures on the affidavit and the contract." During the hearing, the judges also discussed the evidence presented by Bukhari gathered from news sources. The court observed, "If we make a judgment on the basis of news sources, then the PTI should also be worried." December 9, 2016. CJ Jamali's retirement halts proceedings. Proceedings in the case have ended today as Chief Justice Zahir Jamali is scheduled to retire. The Supreme Court said that arguments from both sides would commence afresh when hearings resume in January. A 5-judge larger bench headed by Justice Asif Saeed Kosa has been constituted by the Supreme Court to resume hearing of the Panama Papers case from January 4, 2017. December 31, 2016. Flipping through lawyers, PM's children change counsel again. Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and his children submitted documents in the Supreme Court notifying a change of counsel in the PanamAgate case. According to the documents, Advocate Makhdoom Ali Khan will now represent Nawaz Sharif in court instead of Salman Aslam Butt. Hassan and Hussein Nawaz will be represented by Salman Akram Raja, while Maryam Nawaz will be represented by Shahid Hamid. January 4, 2017. New bench resumes hearing. The hearing of the PanamAgate case resumed on Thursday, where the 5-member bench, headed by Justice Asif Saeed Kosa, was appraised about details of the offices held by Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif during his political career. Naeem Bukhari, who represents T's chief Imran Khan, sought court's permission to refer to a number of interviews of the Prime Minister, his spouse, and children at different points of time to highlight that every one of them took a divergent stand about the ownership of the London properties. Bukhari cited an April 10, 2000, interview of Begum Kalsoom Nawaz by Rory McCarthy of The Guardian, in which she conceded that London flats were bought because her son was studying. At this, Justice Saeed again cautioned the counsel that he was entering into a dangerous territory, adding that if we start hanging people on television interviews or newspaper clippings, then your client will not survive either. January 6, 2017. Burden of proof becomes a sticking point. Members of the Supreme Court bench hearing the PanamAgate case expressed divergent opinions over which side shouldered the burden of proof. while Justice Asif Saeed Khosa, who heads the 5-judge bench, placed the burden of proof on Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's family. Justice Ismath and Justice Ijaz differed. January 12, 2017. Two different money trails puzzle the bench. The Prime Minister's counsel is quizzed about a money trail for the London flats and is asked to prove there were no inconsistencies in the Prime Minister's speech in the National Assembly last year. There are two different money trails before us. How did the money go from Jeddah and then to London? And how did the money go from Dubai to London and then Qatar? The judge asked. January 13, 2017. Sharif family's flats purchased in 1990s, BBC report reveals. Properties owned by the Sharif family in London's upscale Park Lane neighbourhood were purchased in the 1990s and there has been no change of ownership since then, BBC Urdu has reported. According to official documents available with BBC Urdu, the 4 flats were purchased in the name of the Nielsen and Nescall companies. According to the documents, an official record of companies doing business in the United Kingdom reveals that when Hassan Nawaz established Flagship Investment Ltd in 2001, the address he provided at the time of registration of the company was that of his Park Lane apartment. Hussain had said, "The Park Lane apartments in London are ours, 2 offshore companies, Nielsen and Nescall, own these flats and I am the beneficial owner of these companies, working under a trust held by my sister Maryam Nawaz Sharif." January 17, 2017. Maryam submits reply. The Prime Minister's daughter Maryam Nawaz Sharif submitted her reply to the court. In her reply, she maintained that she was not her father's dependent after her marriage in 1992 to Captain Safdar, and that she lived with her husband after her wedding. January 23, 2017. German daily tweets trouble for Maryam. German newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung on Monday tweeted documents to help Pakistanis form their own opinion on the role of Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's daughter in Panama. For those in Pakistan who doubt the role of the Prime Minister's daughter Maryam Safdar in Panama Papers, some of the documents. Judge yourself, Süddeutsche Zeitung tweeted, along with attachments purporting to show her involvement with Minerva Financial Services. Maryam Safdar is her legal name after marriage. January 26, 2017. Second letter from Qatari Royal. A second letter is floated by Hussain Nawaz's counsel, clarifying Sharif's investment in Gulf steel mills. The letter is accompanied by transaction details and auditors' reports regarding the Gulf steel mills in Dubai and the Azizia steel mills in Jeddah. The investment was made by way of provision of cash, which was common practice in the Gulf region at the time of the investment. It was also, given the long-standing relationship between my father and Mr. Sharif, a customary way for them to do business between themselves, the letter states. At the end of 2005, after receiving all accruals and other distributions made over the term of the investment, it was agreed that an amount of approximate $8 million was due to Mr. Sharif. The amount due to him was settled in 2006, the letter explains, by way of the delivery to Mr. Hussain Nawaz Sharif's representative of bearer shares of Nescall Ltd and Nielsen Enterprises Ltd, which had been kept during that time in Qatar. January 27, 2017. SC orders NAF to submit Hudaybiyah reference record on Dar's confession. As part of the Panama case hearing, Finance Minister Ishaq Dar's lawyer Shahid Hamid addressed allegations against his client pertaining to the Hudaybiyah paper mills default reference investigated by NAF. Hamid read from Dar's confessional statement in court. After the military coup, I was first kept under house arrest, then was offered a position in that government in exchange for cooperation. I was made to sign a pre-written statement and then was arrested again. The army kept me captive till 2001, after which I told Rauf Khlasra everything in a detailed interview and denied the statement that I was made to sign at the time, he finished. January 31, 2017. Supreme Court concerned over NAB, Qatar letters. As the Pamanagate case hearing resumed, NAB Prosecutor General Waqas Qadir Dar was called once again to the stand and questioned why the ruling in the Hudaybiyah paper mills case was not appealed. During the hearing, the five-judge bench also questioned the absence of any mention of the Qatari investments in Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's speech in the National Assembly and in Tariq Shafi's affidavit presented to the apex court. We were told that all evidence had been made available, and that perhaps it was we who were unable to see it in its entirety, Justice Asif Saeed Kosa said in stern admonishment to Akram. February 15, 2017. The Panama Onion, PTI presents new evidence. The bench had postponed day-to-day proceedings after Justice Saeed had to be rushed to the Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology following chest pains on January 31. We are submitting 3 more documents, one from PTI Chairman Imran Khan that authenticates all previous documents presented by the party, the expert opinion of UK-based lawyers, and a document that proves that Maryam Nawaz is the owner of UK-based firms Minerva, Nielsen, and Nescall, PTI spokesman Fawad Chaudhry told a press conference. Where is the actual document to show that Hussein Nawaz, the elder son of Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, is the owner of the 4 London flats, asked Justice Sheikh Ismat Saeed, a member of the 5-judge Supreme Court bench who rejoined proceedings after recovering from a cardiac ailment. The Prime Minister's counsel argued that the petitioners had failed to link Nawaz Sharif to any wrongdoing, nor found any culpability. They positioned themselves arguing that since no serious charge has yet been established against the Prime Minister except general allegations, there is no possibility of holding his children accountable for the allegations leveled by petitioners. Justice Ijaz Afzal Khan regretted that the court was getting bogged down, describing the case as an onion that yielded a new surprise every day. Every day, new documents and new queries are coming up. How shall we sum it all up? The judge observed. February 16, 2017. Surprise, Maryam trustee of London flats for 6 months, admits Maryam's lawyer. The lawyer for Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's son sprang a new surprise before the Supreme Court by claiming that the bearer share certificates of the 4 London flats remained in the custody of Maryam Nawaz, the Prime Minister's daughter, between February and July 2006. Salman Akram Raja told the court that a trust deed was executed between Maryam and Hussein Nawaz in February 2006, following which she acted as a trustee for her brother. The confession could prove to be a major blow to the Sharif's case. February 18, 2017. Consider Qatar letters void, Imran asks SC. Imran Khan has submitted an affidavit to the SC, asking it to ignore the 2 Qatar letters produced by the Sharif family as evidence of their stance in the case. In the 24-page affidavit, the PTI leader termed the letters a wonderful example of reverse reconstruction, clearly concocted to cater to the issues before the apex court. The letters, he argued, were simply unbelievable and an alleged puerile attempt by a rich Qatari to come to the aid of a rich Pakistani. February 20, 2017. Record of Hudaybiyah, Raywind references submitted to SC. Today, NAB furnished the Supreme Court with records of 2 corruption references filed against Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and other members of his family over a decade ago. One deals with the Hudaybiyah paper mills scam, while the other related to the illegal construction of the Sharif family's Raywind estate. February 22, 2017. If a story has been made up, you should stick to it. The Attorney General of Pakistan, AG, told the bench that the case record in the Hudaybiyah reference had been examined and that the company had obtained loans through foreign currency accounts. At this, Justice Saeed expressed the bench's frustration by saying that the lawyers were issuing different statements each time, which was confusing the bench. If a story has been made up, you should stick to it, he remarked. The court was told that investments had been made in the Qatari royal family's businesses. There was no mention of foreign currency accounts in the repayment of loans. Addressing the AG, Justice Saeed said, "You should argue as the Attorney General. Don't become a party to the case." February 23, 2017. Panama agate hearings conclude, Judgment awaited. After both the defense and prosecution completed their arguments, the SC said it would reserve its verdict on the Panama case and issue a detailed judgment. It seems justice is whatever serves each party's interests, Justice Asif Saeed Kosa remarked as the arguments wound up. If a judgment is not in someone's interest, they will say the judiciary is corrupt, or that maybe the judges aren't fit to handle such cases, he commented, adding, and if a judgment benefits their own stand on the issue, they will say there can be no better judge. We will decide this case only by the law, such that people will say, 20 years down the line, that this judgment was made by the book, concluded Justice Asif Saeed Kosa.